With me now is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Thank you so much for being here, sir. You said that what we witnessed in the Oval Office was an American president putting America first. What does America first mean to you? Does it mean that America's role in the world is no longer to support democracies when threatened with tyranny?
No, America first is everything that phrase implies. I've always considered myself a Reagan Republican. I believe in the idea that he used to articulate well, that after World War II, America had a very certain responsibility. We're the last great superpower on the planet. It's very important that we maintain that status. But we cannot maintain that status unless we maintain our own strength. And we achieve peace through strength. That was also a Reagan doctrine. So what President Trump is doing is restoring that principle. He is a strong hand to return to the White House at a very perilous time on the world stage. We have to bring about an end to this war in Ukraine. Putin is the aggressor. It is an unjust war. We have been crystal clear about that. But now is the time to bring it to an end. And what President Trump was trying to do in the Oval Office when Zelensky acted so inappropriately, in my view, was to offer them an agreement that would be a win-win-win across the board. The Mineral Rights Agreement is a fantastic solution to bring about an end to this conflict. And I would have hoped that President Zelensky would have understood that and showed some gratitude.
I want you to listen to what your fellow Republican, Senator Lisa Murkowski, said. She had some pretty harsh words for the strategy and what she witnessed in the Oval Office. She said, quote, "I know foreign policy is not for the faint of heart, but right now I'm sick to my stomach as the administration appears to be walking away from our allies and embracing Putin, a threat to democracy and U.S. values around the world." I want you to respond to that. And also, you just said very clearly that Vladimir Putin and Russia, they are the aggressors. We've not heard that from President Trump recently.
Well, I think he's been very clear on that, and I think Senator Murkowski's view on this is plainly wrong. The person who walked away from the table yesterday was President Zelensky. I mean, look, I've been involved in a lot of bilateral meetings like this with heads of state and dignitaries. There's a certain protocol to these events, but for him to act as he did was rather shocking to everyone. I mean, President Zelensky, instead of showing gratitude, he interrupted and berated his hosts at a very perilous time for his country. He should have been anxious, I think, to enter into this agreement. Think of it. The Mineral Rights Agreement would be a win-win for both countries. It would give us an economic interest there, and everyone around the world knows that America will always defend our interest and our people. We would have created an economic partnership with Ukraine at a time when it needs to be re-emerging. And that would have been a great thing. And I don't understand why President Zelensky would not accept that gratefully. And I think it's a big mistake, and I hope he changes his mind, because we've got to bring an end to this conflict.
Well, it sounds like he still does want that deal, and what he was trying to say, and I'm not going to argue with you about the way that he said it. Certainly there was yelling on both sides, as anybody who watched it could see. But his concern was the security risk that Ukraine is under, and he doesn't feel confident that anybody should trust Vladimir Putin. Do you think that President Trump should be trusting Vladimir Putin?
President Trump said very clearly, trust but verify. I mean, he is trying to be the change agent to broker a peace and an end to this conflict. And you have to have both parties at the table to do that. You have to negotiate with both parties, and there has to be a willingness on both sides to bring it to an end. Look, President Trump has shown he will not tolerate someone not fulfilling their end of a deal. And I think that this deal, the time has come. I think it's in the interest of America, of Ukraine, Russia, all of our European allies, and everyone. So I'm very hopeful, as the president has said, that President Zelensky will come back to the table and recognize that peace is the solution here.
Less than a year ago, you risked your speakership to support more aid to Ukraine. You were pretty emotional, saying that history judges us for what we do. Now, do you think the United States should halt military assistance to Ukraine?
Well, remember, as I said then and have said consistently until today, the entire point of providing the aid was to allow Ukraine to sustain itself and position them for peace negotiations. The whole idea behind it was to hold the line, to eliminate the deaths of women and children and innocent people in their country until President Trump could return to the Oval Office. I was I was convinced that that was going to happen, and that he would be the one that was powerful enough, strong enough on the world stage to bring both parties to the table. That is exactly the moment that we are in now. The plan worked, but now Zelensky has to follow through, and the fact that he acted as he did, I think, was a great disappointment. I hope it's not the end of it.
Last question on this, and then I want to turn to what's going on the Hill. What is your view of Vladimir Putin?
I think Vladimir Putin is an old school communist, a former KGB agent. He's not to be trusted, and he is dangerous. The way I view this is that China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea are engaged in a new axis powers, and they are not on America's side. Let's be crystal clear about that. You have to walk circumspectly in these perilous times on the world stage. But America is back. America is strong again, and that is good for us and for freedom-loving people around the world.
Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about your plans for what you and the President call one big, beautiful bill. You had a big win this week in the House. You narrowly passed a key vote for that sweeping budget plan to do a lot of things, including extend Trump tax cuts, slash federal spending, at least give the parameters to do that. When you met with the President and the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, this week, did you get a sense from the Senate leader that he is going to continue with the plan that you propose? Because there's, as you know, some pushback in the Senate.
Well, there was a little initial pushback just on the strategy, but I'll say this very clearly. There is no daylight between the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans. We all have exactly the same idea and mission, and that is to deliver the America First agenda. The One Big Beautiful Bill is the vehicle to do that. And as Leader Thune has said, and Senator Lindsey Graham, Senator Ted Cruz, and others who were initially in favor of a different strategy, of a two-bill strategy, they acknowledge the importance of the House leading on this, I think, and I believe we're ultimately going to combine forces and get the One Big Beautiful Bill done. I think the effort is to get it done. The idea is to get it done by the end of April and get it to the President's desk for signature, because that will provide much needed relief to the American people, economic relief, stability for business owners and people who have to make decisions going forward. And in that same bill, Dana, will do all sorts of things. Make sure the border is secure. We will get American energy dominance going again. We will reduce red tape and cut down the bureaucracy in this country that the American people want us to do. And again, move one step forward even further in restoring peace through strength. So it's a critical piece of legislation.
You met this past week with Elon Musk for several hours, I believe, on the White House complex. Did you talk to him about when you pass the bill to keep the government running, when at least you hope you will do so, that you will include cuts in that mirror what he is trying to do? Big cuts, in some cases almost eliminating agencies.
Yes, we're going to need a few more weeks, maybe a month or more, to qualify and quantify and then codify what Elon Musk and the Doge effort is all about, and that is eliminating fraud, waste, and abuse in the government. He genuinely believes they may be able to find as much as $1 trillion, and that is going to make a big difference, obviously, in the budgeting for the federal government and the appropriations process going forward.
Did he show you what he's doing?
For the FY. Yes, he has. He's shown me many of the examples of the outrageous abuses. And I'm telling you, Dana, when the American people understand what has been happening with our taxpayer dollars, that Congress has been unable to discern, even with our best oversight efforts, Elon has been able to crack the code. He's inside the belly of the beast of the bureaucracy, and the algorithms are crawling through the data constantly.
And you are confident that things like 800 employees at NOAA, and the agency that is responsible for making sure that hurricanes at least are not as devastating because people know about it ahead of time, in states like yours of Louisiana, you're confident that those cuts will not end up hurting the American people? They don't go beyond the waste, fraud, and abuse that is understandable that you want to eliminate?
Yes. What you're going to see is a very careful attention paid to ensuring that the essential programs of the federal government, the things that make sense to American taxpayers and that follow common sense, will be sustained and supported and funded, but that the fraud, waste, and abuse will not. Elon himself has acknowledged there's no playbook for what's happening right now. This has never been done before, and that's kind of the point. It's why it's so exciting. He understands that some mistakes will be made along the way, but they'll be immediately corrected. And you've seen that, for example, with USAID. There were enormous abuses there that enraged the American people. But at the Secretary of State under Marco Rubio's leadership, they're going through literally with a line by line on the line items of USAID, and they're giving waivers for the programs that do need to be continued. For example, the things that confront the Chinese aggression around the world. Those are the kinds of efforts you're going to see in every agency of the federal government, and that is a great thing for American taxpayers and for the future of our country.
As we learn more about this, beyond what we're hearing from the federal employees who are getting fired, I would love for you to come back and talk more about it as we get more transparency, which I do hope that we get along with you. Mr. Speaker, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.